My friend Jason was supposed to come with me, but he backed out last minute, said something about work. I almost canceled too, but I'd already driven 3 hours into northern Montana, deep past the last gas station, where the road turns to gravel and then to dirt. The place was called Black Ridge Trail. No signal, no cabins, just forest that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. I set up my tent just before sunset. It was quiet in a way that felt heavy, not peaceful, just thick silence like the woods were holding their breath. I tried to ignore it. By the time darkness settled in, I had a small fire going and was eating canned chili. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Crunching. Circling. At first I thought it was a deer or something. But animals don't walk like that. This was deliberate. One step pause. Another step pause. Like someone was trying to stay quiet. Hello. I called out. The footsteps stopped immediately. I waited. Nothing. I told myself I was being paranoid. I'd heard enough camping stories online to let my imagination run wild. So I zipped up my tent and lay down trying to sleep. About an hour later, I heard it again. Closer this time. Right outside the tent. I held my breath. Then came a voice. Hey, you mind if I sit by your fire? My heart dropped. The voice sounded normal. Calm. Almost friendly. But there was something off about it. Like the tone didn't match the situation. Who just walks up on someone's campsite in the middle of nowhere at night? I didn't answer. The voice came again, a little louder. I saw your light. Been walking for a while. Thought maybe you had extra food. Still I stayed silent. Something felt wrong. Deep instinct level wrong. Then I noticed something worse. The voice hadn't moved. It was still coming from the exact same spot, right near the edge of my tent. No shifting. No footsteps. Just standing there. Listening. Minutes passed. I didn't move. Then suddenly, a second voice. From farther away. Hey, you out here? This one sounded different. Rougher. More natural. And then the first voice right outside my tent answered back. Yeah, I'm over here. My stomach twisted. That meant the thing outside my tent wasn't alone. I slowly reached for my flashlight, gripping it tightly. I didn't dare turn it on yet. The second voice got closer, footsteps approaching fast now. Man, I thought I lost you, he said. Then a pause. Where's the camper? The first voice responded immediately. Right here. Inside the tent. I froze. They knew I was in there. I heard the second guy step closer. Did he say anything? No, the first voice said. He's just been quiet. Another pause. Then the second voice lowered, almost whispering. That's not normal. Silence fell again. Thick. Suffocating. And then I heard it. A slow, dragging sound. Like fingers running across the outside of my tent. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me not to move. The dragging sound continued, slow and deliberate, tracing the fabric just inches from my face. I could see the faint outline of something pressing against the tent wall from the outside. Not clearly, just enough to know someone was there. Or something. Then the second guy spoke again. Open it. My chest tightened. The first voice hesitated. For the first time, it didn't sound confident. I don't think. Open it. The second one repeated, sharper now. I couldn't stay in there. Not waiting to be unzipped like some trapped animal. I made a decision in that moment. I wasn't going to confront them. I was going to run. My bag was already packed near the entrance. Slowly, carefully, I slid my hand toward the zipper on the opposite side of the tent. Every movement felt impossibly loud. The voices outside had gone quiet again. Listening. Waiting. I counted in my head. 3, 2, 1. I yanked the zipper open and bolted out into the darkness. Branches slapped my face as I ran blindly into the woods, gripping my flashlight, but not turning it on. I didn't want to give away my position. Behind me, chaos erupted. Hey! Footsteps thundered. Both of them. I ran harder than I ever have in my life. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I didn't stop. Then I heard something that made it worse. They weren't chasing me directly. They were spreading out. One veered to the left. The other stayed behind me. They were trying to cut me off. That's when I turned on the flashlight. The beam shook violently as I ran, catching glimpses of trees, rocks, shadows, twisting in ways that didn't feel right. And then, for just a second, I saw one of them. Not clearly, just a flash. But it was enough. He was too close, and his face didn't match his voice. His mouth was stretched too wide, like he was forcing a smile he didn't understand. I stumbled, nearly falling, but caught myself and kept running. I didn't stop for what felt like miles. Eventually, I saw something through the trees. A road. I burst out onto it, nearly collapsing, and ran straight down the middle, not caring where it led. After maybe 10 minutes, headlights appeared in the distance. I waved my arms like a madman until the car slowed and stopped. The driver, a middle-aged woman, rolled down her window, eyes wide. "Are you okay?" I couldn't even answer properly. I just kept saying, "Please, please let me in." She did. We drove in silence for a while before she finally asked what happened. I told her everything. She didn't interrupt, didn't question it. But when I finished, she said something that stayed with me ever since. "You're not the first person," she said quietly. "People talk about voices out there. Copying. Luring. I never went back to Black Ridge Trail. I don't camp alone anymore either. And sometimes late at night, when everything is quiet, I still hear that voice in my head. Hey, you mind if I sit by your fire?" Hey, it's William, and this happened just outside a small town in Oregon. Me and two friends, Caleb Foster and Josh Miller, planned a weekend camping trip. Nothing crazy, just a break from work. We picked a spot deep in the forest, about a mile hike for where we parked. The first thing that fell off was the silence. Not complete silence, but wrong silence. No birds, no insects buzzing. Just the wind pushing through the trees. I remember Caleb joking, "Feels like we're not supposed to be here." We laughed it off, but I didn't like how true it sounded. We set up camp near a narrow clearing. One tent, a fire pit, and a small stream about 50 feet away. Everything looked normal until sunset. As soon as it got dark, the forest changed. It wasn't just darker, it felt heavier. Like the air itself was pressing down on you. We sat around the fire, talking, trying to keep things normal. That's when we heard the first sound. A whistle. Low. Faint. Almost like someone trying to mimic a bird. But not quite right. Josh looked at us and said, "Did you hear that?" We all nodded. "Probably just someone else camping," Caleb said, but he didn't sound convinced. The thing is, we hadn't seen a single other car trail marker or campsite the entire way in. The whistling came again, this time a little closer. I stood up and grabbed my flashlight, pointing it toward the trees. Nothing. Just darkness swallowing the beam after a few yards. "Hey," I shouted. "You out there?" No answer. Just that same whistle. But now it came from a different direction. That's when my stomach dropped. It wasn't moving through the woods. It was circling us. Caleb threw more wood into the fire, making the flames higher. "Let's just stay by the fire," he said. "Animals don't like fire." I want to believe that. I really did. But around midnight, things got worse. We heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Crunching leaves. Definitely not a small animal. They stopped just beyond the light of the fire. Then silence. We didn't say a word. None of us moved. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. And then, a voice. "Hello." It sounded human. Too human. Relief hit me instantly. "Hey," I called out. "You okay?" There was a pause. Then the voice repeated exactly the same tone, same pitch. "Hello." Josh whispered, "Dude, that's not right." That's when I realized it wasn't responding to me. It was copying, mimicking. Caleb grabbed my arm and said quietly, "Don't talk to it." The thing outside the firelight stayed there for what felt like forever. Occasionally shifting, stepping, just enough for us to hear it. And then out of nowhere it sprinted. Not toward us, but around us. Fast. Way too fast. Leaves crunching in a wide circle. Branches snapping. That same voice now laughing softly between breaths like it was enjoying it. We threw more wood on the fire, making it as big as possible. None of us slept that night. But what scared me the most was knowing it never left. Because every time I looked into the trees, I felt like something was staring right back. By the time the sky started turning gray, we were already packing. No one said it out loud, but we all knew the same thing: we had to get out. The fire had burned down to embers, and the forest slowly started making noise again. Birds, insects, normal sounds. It almost felt like nothing had happened. Almost. We moved fast, stuffing everything into our bags without caring how messy it was. Josh kept glancing over his shoulder like he expected something to come running out of the trees at any second. "Let's just go," he said. Right now. We didn't even eat. Just grabbed our stuff and started hiking back toward the trail. At first, everything seemed fine. The sun was rising, light filtering through the trees. It should have felt safe. But then Caleb stopped walking. "What?" I asked. He pointed at the ground. Footprints. Not animal tracks. Human. Barefoot. And they were fresh. I felt my chest tighten. Those weren't there yesterday. The footprints were following the same path we took, but not exactly on it. They stayed just off to the side, like whoever made them didn't want to be seen. Josh whispered. It followed us. We picked up our pace. The woods felt different again. Not silent like before, but tense. Like something was just out of sight, keeping up with us. Then we heard it again. That whistle. But this time, it was behind us. Closer than before. "Don't stop," Caleb said. "Just keep moving." The whistle turned into that same voice. "Hello." My blood ran cold. Same tone. Same exact way. I didn't respond. None of us did. We just kept walking faster, then faster, until we were almost running. Branches scratched against us, leaves crunching under our feet. And behind us, footsteps, keeping pace, not rushing us, not attacking, just following, like it was hurting us. I made the mistake of looking back. For a split second, I saw something between the trees. Tall, too tall, standing still, watching. I couldn't make out a face, just a shape that didn't belong. I turned forward again and said, "Run." We didn't stop running after that. By the time we reached the car, we were out of breath, shaking, throwing our gear into the back without even thinking. Caleb jumped into the driver's seat and started the engine immediately. As we pulled away, I looked back one last time. At the edge of the tree line, something stepped forward, not fully into the open, just enough for me to see its outline. And then it raised an arm, not waving, just copying the motion of someone waving. Slow, deliberate, mocking. I turned around and didn't look back again. We didn't talk about it much after that. Everyone just agreed we weren't going back. But a week later, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. No caller ID, no location. I played it once, and I wish I hadn't. It was just one word. "Hello." Same voice, same exact tone, like it had learned it perfectly. I deleted the message, changed my number, tried to forget about it. But sometimes late at night, when everything is quiet, I swear I can still hear that whistle. Somewhere far away, or maybe not that far at all.